guys, so we are going to talk about why you should be doing events. This is especially important if you are not happy with the amount of traffic you have in your store, you are not happy with your sales online. Sometimes that comes down to not enough people know about you. We've talked about this before. You can have the best stuff, the best prices, the best displays, but if nobody knows about you, then you're going to have a hard time making sales. When I first started, I set up at mainly shows. I had a couple of booths, but I probably did, and I was teaching at the same time. I probably did like 6 shows a year, I think. And that's kind of give and take. When you are picking what shows to do, I want you to think about what your purpose is. If you are trying to get foot traffic to your brick and mortar, then it might be beneficial for you to do some smaller, more what I would call like a craft show in your hometown or a neighboring hometown. Now, why? Because it's free marketing. So not really that you are going to make money, but normally local shows, you might have to spend $20 to $50 to set up. And hopefully you sell at least $50 worth of stuff while you're there. But you're really using that for marketing. So people that come in, you are talking to them, you are making sure they know about your store, your hours, your location, what kinds of things you sell. You are really using it as a platform for communicating with people. Now, if you are not going to be able to talk to strangers, then it might not be as beneficial for you. But at a minimum, you want to be able to smile and say hi and say what your business name is at least. And then you want to be able to hand the person some type of physical thing that they can take with them, whether it's a business card, it's a rack card, it's a flyer, whatever it is. It should have your business name on it, your hours, your location, what social media avenues you are on. I would make sure that it looks professional, and I would be passing those out to literally every single person that was at that venue, whether they were a crafter, whether they sell Pampered Chef, whether they are another antique dealer. I would really be marketing yourself at those smaller shows, because those people who are at those craft stores, they get their supplies somewhere, and they might end up being one of your best customers for multiple things that you have, little things you can't throw away, but you don't have time to do any DIY with. They would do a DIY with, because they are a crafter. That's their gig. And so being able to make those connections is going to be really important. Another thing that you can think about is just brand awareness, people knowing that you're there. Like, it could be like, oh, well, I knew there was a new store going in there, but I didn't know what they sold. Or, oh, I've never been uptown, so I didn't know that you even had a shop. Or, I'm not on social media, so I never knew what your hours were, or whatever. So you really need to focus on those small town shows and look at them for communication. You also need to think about what kind of show is it. If it is a craft show, then you need to be taking not your best antiques. You need to be taking your crafty things, either things that you have repurposed, you've made into something that would appeal to a crafter as a finished product or appeal to their customer base, or little babbles, little Scrabble tiles and wooden spools and clothespins and vintage jewelry and all the little bits and pieces, hinges, things that people would use to make something. So when you're setting up at a local show, most of us are not going to have an antique show in our backyard. It's going to be more like a craft fair, and use it for marketing. Use it for trying to get those crafters to buy from you, and be conscientious of what kind of items you take so that you can actually make some money. That's one type of show. The other types of show could be flea market. Now, a flea market, you're probably not going to have one in your backyard, but there should be a local flea market that is within an hour or two radius of you that you could go set up at. Now, I'm not saying you have a super nice antique shop and now you're going to lower yourself to a flea market. That's not the point. The point is to get foot traffic. So if somebody is going to drive to a flea market and your shop is an hour away, you can entice them to come to your shop. Especially, like, think people from Texas and California might come to a little flea market in Iowa. And if they're going to already come 3 times a year for that flea market, hook it up so that they can come to your store as well. Make those connections, and being in the right place with the right people is part of being able to make those connections, because you have to go to where these big dealers are going to go, or you have to go to where the customers that you want are going. Your ideal customers are maybe not totally ideal, because I think flea market customers are a little bit cheaper maybe, but your ideal customer is going to be at a flea market. So you want to be there. Again, name recognition. You want to be passing out flyers. You want to have rack cards. You want to have business cards. I would have my business cards on all of my merchandise so that when I sold it and they go home and they're cleaning it to put it in their house, they can look and be like, oh yeah, I need to go and follow that girl on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, or look at her website, or see where she's going to be set up next, or whatever, so that they can support you, remember you, okay? You need to have a sign at your booth in no matter where you are going. And I'm leaning in so that I can not have the rings on my eyes. But you need to have your sign, your signage everywhere so that it's very clear what booth you are, what your shop name is. And again, talk to people, smile, how you doing, what you on the hunt for, hey, I have a store, here's where it is, where are you from? You're going to kind of play by ear. Some people are not going to want to talk to you, and so then you just be like, you know, hey, while you're shopping, if you want to stick this in your bag to look at later, this tells you where my store is. Kind of run through some scenarios in your mind, some role playing, and that will better equip you for things to say to people to strike up a conversation, or to plug your brick and mortar, or plug your booth, or plug your Etsy or website or whatever. You are going to use that flea market to make connections with some of the big dealers and draw in your customers and market yourself, because those people are going to come to your shop if they know about you. And so you have to do a good job of getting them to know about you. So if you're going to a flea market, if it's outside, are you going to want to take your nice stuff? Heck no. It's stressful to take your nice stuff when there's rain and wind and could be a theft. So you want to take into consideration what you're taking. Maybe it's stuff you've had for forever that you're sick of looking at, but you don't just want to take to Goodwill. Maybe you have project pieces that you know that you're never going to get to. So take them, make a profit off of them, but, get rid of some of those things on your to-do list. So, when my to-do list is super long, it stresses me out. So if I can get rid of some things on my to-do list, it makes me feel better. And then I can focus on other things that are more important to get done. But you can only utilize the flea market and craft fair if you are going to be handing out things that have your business name on them and talking to people, okay? Make those connections. It could even be connections with people in local towns. So I do the Southern Iowa Junk Jaunt. I need to know what other dealers there are in the area so that they can be on the Junk Jaunt. Do something like that. Maybe it's antique stores and you're going to pick. There's a highway. For me, it would be Highway 5. There's Centerville, Albia, Moravia. We're all doot. Maybe I want to find the other antique shops that are similar to me so I can coordinate an event with them, like Shop Highway 5 Shop Hop, or antiquing on 5 or something. And then you can communicate with those people by setting up at shows. It just kind of opens communication where you can easily talk to people, see what they have, get to know their personalities, and make connections and learn from them as well. If they are seasoned or they're doing really well in a certain area, talk to them. Talk to them about what's selling for them. Do they have a brick and mortar? What shows do they set up at? What are good shows? Because you don't want to waste your time and go set up for a whole weekend when there's 50 people that show up. So you do need to know who is a good promoter. And a lot of times you're going to learn that from talking to people or attending a show. So Junk Jubilee is close. If I went as a customer, I could just say, hey, how is the show? How's the promoter? Are you happy with your weekend? Have you set up at this one before? Just talk to somebody while you're in their booth if they're not helping a customer, and get a little read on it, because that will help you pick which ones to do. So if you know that you only have time to do one in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall, then you need to make sure that you pick the ones that are going to best utilize your time in your radius. So pick the ones that are the best shows. And a lot of times the best shows correlate to the best promoter. The good promoters are going to get good dealers. They're going to draw in the crowd, and that's what you want. So flea market is an option. Then we move on to an antique show. This is going to be like Junk Jubilee, Junk Bonanza, Country Living Fair, Round Top, all of those bigger name ones that you have probably heard about through social media or through like a magazine. And those are going to be more expensive for you up front, but they are also going to be ones that you have the potential of making a profit. When we are talking about an antique show, those are going to be your perfect customer. So if you can find one within a couple of miles of you, you really want to do that one. And again, you can look at it as, hey, I'm just going to be breaking even by the time I pay for my booth, I pay for my gas, the time to plan, prepare, load, unload, be gone for the weekend, the hotel, the food, the things, okay? Just plan on breaking even, okay? And looking at it from a marketing standpoint, because really you are going to move inventory, you are going to make some money, you are going to be marketing yourself. And those are your ideal customers. So you want to communicate with them, and then they will be coming to your store. I can guarantee if you communicate with people when you are set up at events, they are going to become customers. Now, if they are super far away from you, then they might be customers online. So if you don't sell online in any way, shape, or form, I would not worry about going to events that are far away. I have gone to Minneapolis, Minnesota before. That is probably too far. Most of my customers are not going to come from that on any regularity, okay? So it would be more worth my time to go to something in Des Moines or Kansas City, or there's kind of a big one in another town here close. That would be a better use of my time, my money, and it would pay off for me, because we're not looking at just what happens that weekend. We're looking at what happens the future weekends. We've talked about this before, how, some people have the theory of you have 100 customers and you treat those customers, like rock stars. And if you can just really hone in on having 100 good customers, then you're going to be a successful business. But you have to think that some of those are going to be revolving. And so if somebody has to stop their spending with you, then you need to have other people in waiting, we hope they're not waiting, but you know what I mean, in waiting essentially to become replace that person, however much that person was spending with you a week or a month. In order to do that, you have to get in front of more eyeballs. And setting up at shows is kind of like going on a Facebook Live, where people are connecting with your personality. They get to see your stuff in person. Stuff in person is different than it is on the camera, okay? I'm sure we have all been places where it looks one way on camera, it looks a different way in person, even just like a single item. And so being in front of their eyes and having good displays and good stuff and good prices and being nice and personable, that is going to make them want to come to your store or your booth. You need to be working on continually getting new customers, but we want to set up at shows. 1, we're getting rid of some inventory. 2, we are getting practice talking to people. 3, we're getting connections with other dealers, possibly big dealers that are going to buy from us in bulk. 4, we're getting connections from customers who are going to hopefully be physical traffic for us if that is your goal. And if it's not your goal, then you're really pushing your Etsy, your website, your Facebook Live sales, and it'll get you some online sales. So those are the reasons that it's really, really important to do events. Not only your local ones, but you can also think about flea markets, the bigger antique shows, and then the ones that are farther away are more going to be if you are somebody who is really has a lot for sale online. But you are going to want to be memorable, you are going to want to talk to people, and you have to really knock your marketing out of the ballpark. Now, we have an old video about setting up at shows and thinking about packing your trailer and what you're going to put into your trailer, what you need to pack. Are you inside, outside? It's going to have you, think about bringing different things. Not only are you going to want to have marketing that you have visible, that you're handing out, you can have them setting on the table. So if your booth is really busy, you're not going to be able to walk through a maze of people to hand somebody a flyer. Have some setting out that they can take on their own. I said the price tags, but also your gift bags. So when you are packing up somebody's items, make sure your name is on the outside of that bag, because when that person is walking around the entire event or flea market or whatever, they are showing off that bag that they're carrying with your business logo on it. Again, free marketing. Wear a shirt that has your business name on it, or make an apron that has your business name on it. Hopefully, I got a new truck, so my new truck doesn't have my logo on it yet. I haven't decided how I want it to look, but have your logo on your trailer, have your logo on your truck. It's sitting out in the parking lot. People, again, your ideal customers are pulling up. Oh, that looks like a neat name. Wonder, if they're on social media, and then they get on there and they check. They Google you. So you want to utilize that free marketing. The other thing that you can think about too, and a reason to have a good promoter, this is something that even with local, like more crafty shows, they can do a really good job of this also. How does the person promote? Because some promoters are going to have, 200 dealers, and they share all 200 dealers on their social media, like this day I get shared, or they do 10 shares a day of all the different businesses so that they can get them worked in. Small town might be like doing a radio ad, and they're like, okay, at our craft vendor fair, we have da-da-da-da-da, and they go through the list of businesses. Hey, they're dropping your name in there. That's going to be good marketing, good exposure for you. Hopefully that helps. When you set up your booth, the same things that apply at an event that apply in your store or your booth. Everything needs to have a price tag. I don't care if you're at a flea market. I don't care if you are at a craft show. You can have a bowl of Scrabble tiles that says they're X cents each, or buy so many for whatever, but you have to have tags for everything. I'm telling you, it will help your sales. Mark everything. And I know sometimes things are going to fall off, but as soon as you know that there's not a tag on something, you need to get it on there. When you are setting up your booth at the event, pay attention, kind of double check as you are unpacking. Does everything still have a tag on it? If you have more questions about why you should be setting up at events, or if you thought of something that I didn't mention, drop it in the comments.